For context, my dog is a 7-year-old German Shepherd named Duke. Duke is a brave dog who will stand his ground and not fear anything. This is the type of dog you wouldn't screw with either. He is a big dog, the type you'd see and assume that he'd kill you. My other dog, Charlie, we only let out in our pen. We built a pen specially for our dogs. Whereas my other dog, Duke, is allowed in our yard as he is trained and won't run off. Charlie is a husky. He and Duke always get along. They never fight aside from playing, of course. They always are close and love each other. One day we let our dog Bruno out and he runs across the street. This is uncommon but has happened before. We are surrounded by forest and have a long driveway, so once he is on the driveway, he is out of our sight. As usual, my dad goes across the street. He told me at this moment he knew something was up. He said he had a lifeless expression in a dog who is always smiling or showing some emotion. But what we both noticed was weird, was the fact that Charlie seemed to avoid him, like he was scared. Keep in mind, these are the dogs who usually spend all day together. Duke seemed to have gone from a happy, brave dog to a lifeless dog who avoided people. This point is where we knew this wasn't Duke. Out of nowhere, we hear whimpering outside in the pen. We go to check it out and see Charlie, bleeding, a few feet away from Duke inside the pen with blood in his mouth. We pull Charlie inside and lock Duke out. My dad said to me, "You saw that too, right?" I nod my head. "What the hell has gotten into him?" my dad says. I tell him to look out the window, into the driveway where we see Duke, scared and whimpering, then look back out to the pen and see Duke standing on his hind legs, his eyes all black, staring at us. I've been on the trail for about a month now, and it's clear something's been done to this land. The dogs disappear for weeks and reappear 50, 100 miles down the trail. They look the same, but something's off about them. They watch us sleep. Sometimes I've glimpsed them standing on 2 legs. My best trained hound dog and best friend for 5 years has never done anything like what I saw. I saw him stand up on 2 legs and howl in this off-putting tone. It sounded like multiple dogs at the same time. Or it being echoed off something. But I'm in the desert of New Mexico and there's no rock formations in sight or anything that it could echo from. It's been 10 days since I've written the paragraph above this, and I've ran into this elder. I told him about my problems, and he warned me that the natives, before they left, they put a curse on the land. He warned of a creature called Skinwalker. I'm not sure what it means, but it couldn't be real, right? I digress. He said that they have the ability to shapeshift that still confuses me as I have no idea what it means. I told him about the noises my dogs have made, and he told me I should kill or leave the dogs. He warned they were speaking the language of the sands, whatever that means. It's been 4 days since I've last wrote and something's wrong. My strongest ox was killed and drained of blood overnight. My dog had grown a long fan and his face was covered in blood. He wouldn't and couldn't ever do this. Something's seriously wrong with the wildlife too. I saw a ram with glowing eyes on the ridge, watching me. It's been a day since I've written. I'm fucked. My dogs all tried to corner me in my wagon, and I'm lucky I had my 6-shooter. I'm out of ox and out of dogs and only have 1 horse left. I've been riding him for about a mile and this coyote started following me. Watching, he was barking in the exact tone my dogs did. I'm gonna camp out under a tree I see ahead. I don't know if I'm gonna write again. If you're seeing this, don't trust the dogs. This happened before I was born. My parents used to take care of my older cousin since she was a baby. They used to live inside of my grandmother's house, which I've talked about in my past posts. All my stories happens there. Anyways, when my mom was in the room with my baby cousin, the room was hot because this was in Arizona, so the nights was cooler. The window was open. My mother left the window open to cool down the room my cousin was in. My father would have called my mother to the kitchen due she went to go help him because he needed help finding a cup or bowl he needed to make dinner. It had gotten dark outside during that time, and my cousin was taking her nap after my mother was done helping my father. She decided to check on the baby when she returned to the room. What she saw in the window was something she is still scared to talk about because she had never seen anything like this before. What was in the window was a head. It didn't look like a human head. It looked like a horse or a deer's head that was disfigured. And the skin on the head looked as if the skin was peeling off of it. The fucking creature was staring at the sleeping baby. The thing didn't move. It was only breathing. The breathing sounded like it was having a hard time. It moved closer inside as if the creature was trying to crawl through the window to get to my cousin as she was sleeping on the bed. My mother screamed and yelled, "Get the fuck away from her," while throwing whatever she can find at it. My father Than ran into the room, saw it, and started cursing at it before starting to pray in our language, which seemed to irritate the creature. But all it did was smile in a very fucking creepy way and look towards my parents. My mother explained the creature's eyes as black, as if it didn't have eyes or that the eye sockets were empty. After around 5 minutes of staring at them, it left as if nothing had happened. After the thing left, my father would close and lock the windows. My mother would hurry over to my cousin. The three of them would end up going to my great-grandmother's house and stay there for the night. My father was up all night with a handgun with him, ready to fire at it if the creature came back, but the thing never returned. When morning came, he instructed my mother to stay in the house with the baby and my great-grandmother. He got my uncles and my other grandfathers who lived on the family's property during the time to go around and to find footprints. They decided to check behind the house. When they looked, all they saw were big deer hoof prints in the ground under the window. They were concerned about how tall the creature could be because the ground to the window was about 8 or 9 feet tall. After that event, a rule to the nighttime routines was added. Rule #25, don't open the windows or doors leading into the house at night. This is a true story and it haunts me every single night. It all started on a Tuesday night around 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm lying alone in bed in the dark and my window is cracked open. I prefer having a breeze at night to stay cool. I open my window every single night. It doesn't matter if it's hot or cold or windy or rainy, I will open my window. Anyways, I had to make this post because it is really haunting me. To explain, all of a sudden the noise started. I remember my eyes rapidly opening and the shivers being brought down my spine. It was very paralyzing, and it made my whole body jolt like a shockwave running through my nerves. This sensation is especially intense at night when you are startled by a noise like your old house resting. But this was unlike anything I've ever experienced. To start, the noise that scared me seemed to be a man shouting from a quarter of a mile away. I thought to myself that this was extremely unusual. I live in a desolate area and I don't have many neighbors around, so it couldn't have been them. I live in a woodsy area in a humble neighborhood. Most people who live here are hermits and don't leave their homes unless it's for the bi-weekly grocery shopping or leaving in the morning to go to work. But the screams were very specific and were arranged in a pattern. They almost sounded inhuman. A loud but faint yell would sound about every 2 seconds, and the yells were unintelligible words and lasted for about 1-2 syllables. It was almost perfect, sounding like a recording of a shout played again and again and again, but for hours. The dreadful sounds stayed in place for 3 hours of non-stop yelling, and the man never seemed to move locations except for when the noises slowly got farther away, and that's when it seemed to stop. The sounds lasted from 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. I assume the man making the disturbance is in his early 30s. It haunts me to think of someone just standing in the forest, blatantly yelling words for 3 hours straight in the middle of the night. The sounds didn't appear like they were desperate, as if they were in need of any help. The only drastic thing would be if a bear mauled you to death, but no one's stupid enough to go out at night like this. The shouts sounded emotionless, and of course very terrifying. I eventually was able to catch my breath and peek out the window. It wasn't the wind causing the noise, and most definitely wasn't a branch scraping my window like someone would try claiming in order to debunk me. But I was too afraid to go outside and investigate. I had to debate whether calling the police would be the right thing to do or not. I kept my ear close to the window for a few minutes, and I was starting to decrypt what he was saying. It sounded like it was in a different language or a gibberish word being spoken, but it was very strange. I know I'm not crazy, and I know what I heard. I will probably never open my window ever again since I don't want to find out who or what was making those sounds, and I definitely do not want them to come back. Does anyone know what this could be? I asked my neighbors if they heard, and only 1 out of 4 claimed they did. We both don't know what it was.